Welcome to Studio A. Our guest today is Miss Sherry Early, breast cancer survivor. Welcome to the studio, Sherry.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I've so been looking forward to meeting you.
Same here.
Thank you very much. Let's get into it. Where are you from, Miss Lady?
I am from Fort Wayne.
You are?
I am.
Born and bred?
Born and bred.
Born and bred. What high school did you attend?
Concordia.
Concordia, okay. And where did you attend college?
And I've attended several colleges.
Okay.
So the first college would have been out at IPFW,
Okay.
where I got a bachelor's degree in fine and performing arts theater management.
Really?
I did.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to IU Bloomington and got an MPA, a Master's in Public Affairs.
Uh-huh.
And then later on in life, I went to Southern New Hampshire University and got a Master's in Community and Economic Development.
What did you want to do with these degrees? Very interesting.
So initially, and I am still very much so an arts person,
Okay, all right.
and find myself coming back to that now after all of this time.
Okay.
I was going to be a stage manager or run the front of a house of a theater in the big city.
Did you want to
somewhere.
be in New York or Chicago? or-
Yes, those were my two places.
Okay,
It
New
was
York
like
and
New
Chicago.
York or Chicago. And what ended up happening is, as I thought about getting an MFA, it wasn't offered here locally.
Right.
And at that time, my family needed me to stay in the area.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, then I won't do that, and I'll just think about doing another degree or something else
And
later
that's
in
when
life.
you did the MPA.
And then I went actually to Bloomington because I
Uh-huh.
got my BA here, and I went to Bloomington and got the MPA.
Okay. How was
Yes.
that experience?
That was great. It was right up my alley because it had a lot to do with just organization and processes and procedures. It allowed a lot of activity with community individuals. How do you set policy? How does local government function? And found myself in love with that as
You
well.
did?
Yes. And so my thought was, I will graduate with my MPA, and I concentrated in urban management.
Okay.
And I'll find a city to be a city manager,
All right.
because that was the goal.
So you still were thinking of leaving Fort Wayne?
I still was thinking, because we're not a city that supports the city management structure.
Okay.
And there's only one or two in Indiana that do.
All right.
So I was still thinking, yep.
Were you
know.
thinking Indy?
I wasn't sure. No, I
Okay.
wasn't sure. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. But interesting enough, we were all required to finish our last year of our NPA from SPIA there
Uh-huh.
in an internship
Yeah.
of sorts. And so instead of doing my internship here in the US, I did my internship in New Zealand on the North Island.
Really? Oh my
did.
goodness. How was that?
That was absolutely wonderful.
I
It
hear
was-
New Zealand is just stunningly beautiful.
It is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous.
And that the people are just lovely.
And I say to people all the time, a Kiwi can get anything I got at any time. If you walk up to me and tell me you are here from New Zealand and you're just trying to get around, I will take care of you.
Oh my goodness, they're that kind.
That kind. They embraced me. I was there by myself. I was married at the time, but
Were
we had
you?
agreed that I would go and
Okay.
that he would come and visit on his breaks.
All right.
And it was a remarkable experience.
Wonderful. Wonderful. What brought you back to Fort Wayne?
Being married.
Being married.
Yes, being married brought me back to Indiana. I was like, I gotta go home. And then from there, we did other travels and went other places, him and I together, Africa and Turkey and
What
and things
countries
like that.
in Africa have you been to?
I've been to South Africa.
Okay.
I've been to Mali.
Mali.
I've been
Oh,
to Senegal.
wow.
Trying to think.
What's your favorite country that you've been to in Africa?
South Africa.
Really? Why?
I think because of, one, the beauty. When I was in Mali, which is West Africa, it wasn't that it wasn't beautiful, but it's on the edge of the Sahara.
It's
It's extremely scorching hot.
Yeah.
And red sand everywhere, everywhere, all over you all the
Oh, my
time.
goodness.
So South Africa, I loved that we were, where I was in Durban, we were by the sea.
Okay.
And so water is one of my special places.
Okay.
And so I think that even captivated me even more.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
that was for sure a great
Do you
trip.
plan on going back?
I do. I do plan on going back. And it's funny, my family talk about it often.
Okay.
My sister and I and my
Your
brother.
sister, Miss Clydia?
Yes, my sister Lydia.
Yeah, yeah, who we've interviewed.
Right, right.
Wow, wow. Let's talk about how you're feeling right now.
I take preventative meds and I have to take them twice a day.
Okay.
And within a half an hour to 45 minutes after I take them, I am exhausted. Fatigue, it's almost like it jumps on me.
Okay.
I'm nauseous.
Okay.
My stomach's upset.
All right.
And so I am slowly moving out of that time period for me today.
All right.
So it's not that it's become normal, so I don't even say I feel bad anymore.
It's not that you're feeling badly, but you're
Right.
just not feeling 100%.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is daily.
This is a
So.
daily thing. You and I talked off camera about you taking the preventative medicine drugs and that it is long term, like you stated. How does that affect you mentally, knowing that you're going to need to take these drugs for perhaps up to a 10-year or longer time frame?
I questioned it. Let me
Okay.
say that when my medical oncologist said to me that, and this was before we did any of the chemo, before we did any surgeries, that once we're all done, because I asked for the process to be completely ran down to me,
Okay.
we will then put you on preventative meds that one, we'll probably ask that you take 24 months. And then the other, she says, we'll probably ask that you take 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And I said to her, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. And she says, well, let's not, don't worry about it right now. We're not there. And I said, you're talking to someone that doesn't take any drugs. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. If I'm taking something, it's a vitamin or an herb that I'm taking, and it's taking it for a period of time
Right.
to either detox or something like that.
Right.
I am not committed to taking anything long term.
Right.
I said, so that's going to be a huge challenge for me, and I need you to understand that. And I'm glad to revisit, but I can't promise you that I'm going to take them at all.
Let's back up a bit. When you, how did you know something was wrong or different in your body?
So I will be absolutely honest. Because I religiously do a mammogram every year, and I have for over 10 years, I didn't know anything was wrong.
Okay.
The last mammogram I had was January 27th, 2022.
Okay.
The next mammogram I had was March 19th or something around there, 2023.
Okay.
So just a little later, but
Right.
very close. And at that particular mammogram is where they spotted a very small lump
Okay.
in my left breast.
Okay.
And they asked me if I would come back on March 21st for a biopsy.
All right.
And when they called me and asked that, I said, for a what? And she said, for a biopsy. We think we see something that we didn't see a year ago.
Okay.
And I said, okay, sure. So I get my diehard sister, Clydia, and I say, Clydia, they want me to come back for a mammogram. Or no, I'm sorry, for a biopsy. And she's like, I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go with you. I said, okay.
Right.
So
And at that time, were you thinking, what were you thinking at
I
that
was
time?
thinking, wow, what could it be?
Okay.
But, still trying to be extremely positive and be like, maybe they see something. If they go in and it really is nothing, then we're good and we'll go on. If they go in and it is something, then we're going to go from there.
Right.
So
Right.
they did the biopsy on March 21st
Of 2023.
of 2023.
Okay.
On March 24th, 3 days later, on 2024, I get a call around noon. I'm working, and I was working at a co-working space downtown.
Okay.
And I was in my office, And the person introduced herself, and she said, I am a breast navigator from Lutheran Hospital, and I am calling to tell you your test results.
Okay.
And I had someone in my office, and I said to her, okay, hold 1 second. And I excused myself, and I went into a private conference room. And I said, okay, here I am. And she says, Sherry, I'm calling to tell you that your test results have come back, and you have been diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma and metastasized carcinoma. And she said it, and I was like, And I said, okay, so pardon me, I don't know the terms. I said, but are you telling me that I have breast cancer?
Uh-huh.
And she said, yes,
Mm.
that's what I'm telling you.
Mm.
And I said,
How?
really? I said to her, I said, really?
You said you didn't believe it.
Yeah,
You
I
couldn't
said,
believe
yeah.
it.
I said, really? And she said, yes, that is what I'm telling you. She said, so I'm calling you because my role is to now walk you through the next steps and help you navigate
Okay.
from this point on. And she said, so the next thing I'll need you to do, and I said, pardon me. And she said, yes. I said, you have my physician's name and information, correct? And she said, yes. And I said, well, I have an appointment with her on Monday.
Okay.
I said, everything that you're about to tell me, I need you to call and tell them.
Uh-huh.
Because I cannot receive anything else you have to say at this moment.
Okay.
I said, please understand it's nothing against you.
You were
but
overwhelmed.
I said, this is all I can receive today.
Okay. All
And she
right.
says, oh, okay.
Okay.
I will do that. I said, I thank you. And she says, I'll call you back next week. Just make sure you're okay, and we'll go from there.
And
I
what were
said,
you thinking at this time? Had you just shut down?
I was thinking two things. One, I just left someone in my
Excuse me.
office.
Okay, right.
Two, it's noon, and they've just called and told me I have breast cancer.
Right.
And, oh my goodness. And I could feel the tears running down my face.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
And I said, okay, Sherry. And so I called my partner, and I said to him, and he was at work, and he said, yeah. And I said, hey, they just called and told me I have breast cancer. And he says, what? And I said, yeah. And he says, do you want me to leave work and I'll come to you now? And I said, no, I don't. I don't want you to leave. And I made one more call, and that was to Clydia.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Clydia. And she said, yeah. She calls me Bae.
Uh-huh.
She said, yeah, babe. I said, I have breast cancer. She said, who says? Right? And I said, the nurse just called me. The nurse says. And she said, come home.
Thank you.
She said, come home now. I said,
Your
I'm
sister
coming.
told you,
yes.
come home.
She said, come home now, and if you don't want to come, I'll come get you.
I have coffee. Would you like the water?
Oh, I have some water
You
here.
have water.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you. She says, if you can't come, I'll come get you.
Okay.
I said, no, I'm going to come. I said, I got somebody in my office. I got to go back to my office and at least let the person in my office go, you know. And she said, okay, but after that, Sherry, I'm not playing. If you're not here by this time, I'm coming.
Yeah.
I said, I'm coming. So I went back to my office.
Clydia is your older sister,
My
just
older
to
sister.
be clear.
Yes.
By 4 years?
8.
By 8 years. Okay. I get it wrong.
That's okay.
So you're her baby doll.
Mm-hmm.
You're her sweet baby doll.
Mm-hmm.
So she felt protective of you
Oh.
and maternal towards you and all of those things.
All of
like
those
a big
things.
sister does.
Mm-hmm.
When she said to you, if you don't come here, I'm coming to you and I'm coming to get you. Where were you mentally, emotionally at that point?
I was attempting to push what was said to me aside so
Okay.
that I could
Function.
to get out,
Yeah.
to leave.
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
You know, and I was like, okay, I got to leave this conference room. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to tell, which was my assistant at that time, Andrew.
Okay.
I'm going to tell Andrew that we're going to have to call this meeting today, but then him and I will get back together.
Yeah.
And so Andrew knew that I had gone through the biopsy and everything, so I go in and I look at him and he says, Sherry, you good? And I said, Andrew. And I just started crying. And he jumped up and hugged me and he said, it's okay, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. And I said, thank you. And he says, I'm going to go, and you go home, and we'll talk later.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And so I went home and talked to my family.
Okay.
I talked to my family, and I told them, you know, here's what I know.
This is what I know.
And Clydia said, what's next? Because that was, I think the 24th was a Friday.
Okay.
Which means I had
The weekend,
The-
a long, long weekend.
seemed like a never-ending weekend.
Yeah.
Before I would even talk to my doctor on the 27th, which
Okay.
would have been Monday.
Monday. Okay. Tell us what happened that weekend. I imagine you had a series of highs and lows. There's always that moment where you sort of go to sleep and you forget what happened. And then you wake up and you think something was wrong. What was wrong? Oh my God, this is what was
Was
wrong.
wrong. Exactly.
This is what's happening. And it becomes,
That's
it
exactly
starts-
what it was.
yeah, it starts becoming a reality.
It does. And I had decided not to tell my daughter yet.
Okay, your daughter, who at the time was,
16,
60, and she's your only child.
my only child. And I decided not to tell her yet.
Until you knew more.
Right. I needed to understand it because she's one of those children that wants to understand.
Yeah, and when you
And-
tell her something, she believes it.
And she'd ask all the detailed questions that I would ask.
Of course.
And so I didn't want to go to her half-baked and simply saying, this is all I know, and
Or
have
I
her
don't
on
know.
edge, or I don't know,
I don't
and what will happen after this, Mom,
Right.
and what goes on.
Right.
So I told my family, you know, I got to make it to Monday because I need to talk to my
My
doctor,
doctor.
which is an internist here locally, and have her tell me, you know, what's the next steps.
Okay.
But here's what I know, and I told them what I knew.
Okay.
And so we all made it. I stayed probably in my room the majority of the time for the weekend.
Okay.
We made it through the weekend, and Monday came, and I called, and the doctor and I talked it through. And she says, I'm going to tell you as much as I know. This is not my area of specialty.
Okay.
She says, but they've sent me over all of your
charts.
test records and, you know, all that they've done, the size, what did the biopsy say, all of that. And so she explained to me what ductal carcinoma meant.
Okay.
And she also explained to me what metastasized carcinoma meant,
Okay.
which to me at that time was just breast cancer.
Right. Right.
And ductal carcinoma, invasive ductal carcinoma, was the speaking of the breast.
Okay.
But the metastasized part was actually, as she stated, the cancer had traveled to my lymph node.
Had spread. Okay.
And I said, okay, didn't understand that, didn't
Okay.
know that. She says, yes. So not only do you have cancer in your breast, but you have cancer in at least one lymph node.
Okay.
So I said, okay. And so I said to her, what's my next step? She said, we need to identify an oncologist for you.
Okay.
And I said, do you have anyone you recommend?
Okay. Because you trust her.
I do.
You're.
She got extremely quiet on the phone.
She did.
And we waited. And I said, Michelle, do you have anyone you'd recommend? And she said, Sherry, I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of oncologists come and go here in Fort Wayne. She says, and there's been some that I like. And yes, Fort Wayne has some. But they don't have any I would recommend to you.
My goodness.
That's what I said. I
My
said,
goodness.
really? And she said, yes. She said, the last one that I really liked left and went to Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
She said, would you go to Cleveland Clinic if I sent a referral for you?
Okay.
And she says, and if your insurance will
Pay for
pay
it.
for it.
Yeah.
I said, most definitely.
Okay.
Yes, I'll go. I'll
Okay.
figure it out. And she said, okay, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find her,
Okay.
and I'm going to do a referral for you
Okay.
to Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
And that's pretty much how we left our call.
All right.
I then, again, talking to family, explained to them what she explained to me.
Right.
All of my numbers, hers, you know, positive, ER positive, all of the
Details.
details.
Uh-huh.
And I started talking to my partner, Anthony, and I said, you know, here we are. And he said, yeah, babe, you know, I understand. He says, but my best friend in Dayton, because he's from Dayton,
Okay.
Mom just had breast cancer surgery. He said, and they were just telling me about this wonderful, wonderful surgeon
Okay.
that they had, and that she was a powerhouse He says, do you mind if I share with them that you have it and just get some information about her?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't mind. Please, I need all the information I can get.
So at this point, you were gathering information
I was gathering information. I was
to see who
attempting.
your team would be.
Exactly. In my head, the first thing I said is, typically I go to the doctor like most people and I let you tell me what's wrong and I let you suggest what to do and I go about my business and I do it.
Sure.
I felt like at this point in my life that if I didn't advocate for me, that I didn't have anyone else, and this might be my last chance to advocate for me. So I was going to consciously and intensely choose who did anything to me from this point forward.
While you were feeling healthy, strong, and in your right state of mind.
Exactly. And I had said to my physician when I was on the phone with her, I said, is there anyone of color here in Fort Wayne
Yeah.
that's an oncologist?
Yeah.
She said, oh, no, Sherry. I said, really? She says, no. I said, okay, yeah, send me to Cleveland Clinic for now. And she says, I want to tell you the person I'm sending you to is not a person of color either. She is a woman.
A woman,
and she's
but not
extremely talented.
not
but
a
she's
woman
not a
of
person.
color.
No.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, for now, that's fine.
That's fine.
I called Cleveland Clinic after she gave it. I set up an appointment for like April 12th.
Okay.
I then get back from my partner the information of a doctor by the name of Celine Samuels.
Okay.
She is Nigerian born,
All right.
but she raised in America.
Okay.
And she is a surgical oncologist in Dayton, a breast cancer surgical oncologist.
Okay.
And we all get the information. And when I say we, I have a brother and a sister-in-law in Florida. I sent the information to everybody.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, let's just do our due diligence.
As a team.
As a team. And we all started looking and saying this and that, and she looks this like this. Oh, hey, she consulted on Katie Couric's breast cancer surgery.
My
hey, she
goodness.
she's a fellow of Cleveland Clinic. You know,
So you did your research.
We did our research.
Your due diligence.
And I said, I'm going to make an appointment.
Okay.
I'm going to make an appointment. I can have two.
Yeah.
You know, I can get a second opinion.
Yeah, of course.
And her office, luckily, was able to see me, I think it was like March. Not March, April 6th.
Uh-huh.
And Cleveland Clinic couldn't see me until April 12th.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, that's good. I'll
Perfect.
go. If I like her, then I can make her my primary, and then, you know, get Cleveland to do a second backup, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, and so my family said, yes, okay. My brother flew in to Fort Wayne. My brother-in-law, K2, Clydia's husband, Clydia, myself, and my partner. We all went up to Dayton.
Okay.
We met with her.
All right.
And she said, you've brought a tribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
yeah.
said-
That's how we roll.
Exactly, that's what I said to her. And we all sat in a room, and she literally was just eloquent, but so detailed, and so, her bedside manner was just incredible and wonderful. I felt like a member of my family.
She was that personable.
Yes, was talking to me. She drew diagrams and said, this is where this is what this is, this is what this means. And she said, and we're going to make a plan together. I'm not putting a plan together for you. We're going to do it together right now. And she did that. She gave me an A and she gave me a B.
Okay.
And she said, since you've driven all this way, I'm also going to have you see a medical oncologist
Okay.
that I highly recommend.
Okay.
She said she's almost like a sister. She's upstairs. I'm going to call them and tell them I want you to see her right after me.
Okay.
And so we built the team. She
All
said to
right.
me, I'm your quarterback.
Oh,
It was
right.
incredible.
Yeah.
And that is the team that I still work with today.
Okay.
But has now an extension here that reports to them, but it's an oncology here,
Okay.
a person here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
When did you tell your daughter?
I didn't tell my daughter until probably right after that visit.
And
after
how
that
hard
visit.
was that?
It was, I didn't tell her by myself.
Okay.
So my sister Clydia
Yeah,
was
her
there,
auntie.
and my niece, Clydia's daughter,
Okay, her
was
cousin.
there, her cousin. And she was a little taken back,
Of course.
you know? And she said, "You have what?" And I explained to her. And she started to cry. And I said, "No, we're not going to cry."
Yeah.
I said, "We're going to fight this. We're going to fight this." And she said, "Okay." She said, "Okay, Mom, but please, know I love you." And I said, "No, I love you too." And
That's a given.
Yes, I told her. And we talked
But
it
she
through.
just wanted you to know, Mama, I love you.
And she would come in my room at night and check on me.
Yeah, like a sweet
Yeah,
baby girl.
like taking care of me, right?
A sweet baby girl.
And after telling her that, she stuck to me, close. Where you going? What you doing?
Yeah,
All those things. And
Yeah.
I explained every appointment,
yeah,
what was going on.
Yeah.
And we went through the process. I answered every question she had, honestly. And if I didn't know, I'd say, "I don't know what this means. I don't know
Okay.
what happens after this."
All right.
Unfortunately, I was down to my last 4 chemo procedures.
So you had chemo and you had surgery as well?
Yes, and my plan was to do chemo first. And the reason we did chemo first was that because my cancer was metastasized,
Yeah.
it simply meant that the cancer was traveling.
Yeah, spreading, right.
And I was only a year from the last time I'd been there.
Right.
Which meant it was traveling at a faster
fast
speed.
rate, right.
And so the recommendation was to do chemo so that we could stop
Uh-huh,
any of that.
uh-huh.
Not rather than going in and cutting something out and not knowing if we got.
Like when there's a fire and they do the fire line. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so I said, okay, so I did 4 sessions of every 21 days
Of chemo.
and then went to proceed with that to 12 sessions of every day or every week.
Okay,
I got down to the last 4
yeah.
and got ill
My
and got
goodness.
hospitalized.
Oh my goodness.
So on September 7th of 2023, I was hospitalized.
Okay, now I've got to tell you, Sherry, we're going to have you back in the studio because we've got 1 minute left
Okay.
and we're nowhere near finished with sharing your story. I can tell.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
So we will stop here that you became ill and you were hospitalized. And we will pick up with you were hospitalized and what happened thereafter. Obviously, you're here, praise God, and in
Yes.
good health, so
Yes.
we know the end of the story.
Exactly.
But we want to hear the rest of the story. We want to hear your journey.
Okay.
We want to know exactly what happens and what one does when they are diagnosed with breast cancer,
Okay.
and particularly for women of color. Particularly for women of color.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
thank you for tuning in. We will have Sherry Early, breast cancer survivor, back in the studio to tell part 2 of what happened on her journey. Thank you for tuning in again, and you be blessed.